About a month ago, I put up a post about an excellent book I just finished reading titled Are We Living in Satan's Little Season? The author's pen name is Theo Rising, play on the word theorizing. And so far, that is still the best book that I've come across. Since then, I've gotten other books on the topic of Satan's Little Season or Satan's Short Season. And one of them was so bad, I actually threw it away. I think it was actually put out to discredit the movement. That does actually go on. Want a little conspiracy theory that I know is actually a fact? When powers that be want to discredit a good movement, they'll pose as a member of that movement and then either do or say things that are outlandish or worse to discredit the good movement, right? So I came across a book on Satan's Short Season that was just right off the bat uh, pushing a lot of nonsense and things that would discredit those that are putting forth a reasonable presentation of the information, like that book I recommend did. But I want to talk here briefly about the idea of a physical kingdom and the spiritual kingdom, right? Because on the topic of Satan's little season, on the topic of eschatology and whether the second coming has already happened or whether it's still in the future, this involves the element of 1,000-year reign physically on earth by the Messiah, by Yeshua, right? By Yeshua, by Jesus. So there's this physical kingdom, but he definitely spoke to us about a spiritual kingdom as well, and that definitely is a reality. The reality of that spiritual kingdom is actually what has strengthened my faith and belief more than anything. Once I became aware of its existence. In this other book on Satan's Little Season, which I don't recommend, it's titled Spiritual Warfare, Surviving Satan's Little Season. The author is a heavy Paulinist, is just quoting Paul throughout, and this culminates in chapter 22 titled Overcoming by the Blood and Testimony, right? So this is the main tenet of Pauline Christianity, the main false dogma, right? That the entire life, ministry, death, and resurrection of Jesus can be reduced to blood power atonement, right? But when I was reading through this section, I realized that if you replace the word blood with the spiritual kingdom, what's being said is actually true. So, for example, quote, "The blood is your defense, it is your shield. It declares to the enemy that you have been washed clean, forgiven, and set free. Satan may bring up your past, but the blood declares a better word." End quote. So that statement is false in the way that it is being presented, which again is in the context of blood power, right? That if an innocent person or animal uh, is murdered, that somehow that can wash away your sins and empower you and give you a ticket to heaven. But if you replace the word blood here with the spiritual kingdom, which I would clarify further as being kairos moments in our daily life, these 1 second moments of opportunity where we can perfectly align with the greatest commandments and be empowered by doing so to either add something positive to our life or the life of others, or remove something abusive from our life or the life of others. So I'll reread it now, inserting spiritual kingdom instead of blood. The spiritual kingdom is your defense. It is your shield. It declares to the enemy that you have been washed clean, forgiven, and set free. Satan may bring up your past, but the spiritual kingdom declares a better word. And this is exactly true, and I've seen this, I've realized it through my own life experience. And it just makes logical sense if you can just follow the explanation here, the reasoning, or the description, perhaps is the best word. Because these are moments of opportunity, if you fulfill the moment, it doesn't matter what your past was. I often think of like a sports context to make this more clear. Like, imagine whatever sport, some Olympic sport, and the person, kept failing at whatever say it's a gymnastics event, and they kept messing up the maneuver over and over and over again, right? But then they somehow get a chance, to go to the Olympics, and at that event, they get a 10 out of 10, and they win the gold medal, right? It doesn't matter that they messed up 1,000 times prior, right? They still get the gold medal. It's like that. And it doesn't mean that one gold medal means like you can go back to making mistakes all over the place and nothing, and those won't have any consequences. They will. But each gold medal adds real satisfaction to your life. Each fulfilled kairos moment adds real satisfaction to your life, and it's pleasing to the Father. Okay, the next section here says, the blood grants us bold access. And that's also very true and perfectly speaks to kairos moments, which you actually have to approach with boldness, as the verse in Hebrews speaks to. And it says here, through the blood of Christ, we have access to the very throne of God. Well, it's actually through the spiritual kingdom of Christ. It's not belief in blood power that draws you closer to Christ. It's alignment with his actual living presence. It says here, no longer are we distant from God. No longer are we cast out. And again, that's very true to the reality of the spiritual kingdom. Because when you're in perfect alignment and you fulfill his will in that moment, you are in a very real sense close to him. The distance is removed. Last section here, I'll quote from, is titled, "The blood secures victory in warfare." Again, just believing in blood power does not secure any kind of victory in spiritual warfare, but the spiritual kingdom is indestructible, meaning these moments of opportunity are orchestrated by God, so they cannot be undermined. They're perfectly secure. All you have to do is fulfill them, and you're guaranteed victory in that moment of warfare against the 8 demonic emotion thoughts, which we'll try and dissuade you from aligning with perfect love for God, others, and yourself. This section reads, quote, "When the enemy comes against you, your greatest weapon is to stand on the blood. It is a weapon the devil cannot handle." So again, it's completely false as worded, but if you change blood to spiritual kingdom, it's perfectly true. When the enemy comes against you, your greatest weapon is to stand on the spiritual kingdom, or to stand in alignment with it. It is a weapon the devil cannot handle. Again, he can't undermine the orchestration of the perfect opportunity. If you align with the greatest commandments in those moments, you will have victory, without a doubt. There's nothing the enemy can do about it. So I'll end this here. I hope you found this of interest. Thanks for listening.